Hello, I'm Betty Hollister, Public Information Manager with the Regional Flood Control District, and welcome to another edition of the Flood Channel. The population of the valley is constantly changing, people moving in and people moving out, so we wanted to remind you about the dangers of flash flooding, especially with flash flood season right around the corner, and show you some of the ways we're working to minimize the flood risk for the community. So let's take a look at some of the projects designed to make Southern Nevada safer for all residents, old and new.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ann Mokopathai here at the Duck Creek Railroad Detention Basin, one of our newest construction projects. Projects like this are being built to not only capture floodwater, I'll show you how they're also boosting the economy. Also, a look at our flood threat recognition system. When storms can happen in an instant, I'll show you how this system is so important.
Thanks, Carrie Ann. All that and our Flood Facts segment coming up on this edition of the Flood Channel. Welcome back to the Flood Channel. Part of our mission at the Flood Control District is to keep floodwater away from people. We do that by building detention basins, channels, and underground storm drains to collect floodwater and move it safely through the urban area and out to Lake Mead. Carrie Ann shows us one of the newest detention basins being built by the district.
Thanks, Betty. Here at the Duck Creek Railroad Detention Basin, just south of Blue Diamond Road near Rainbow, the district is constructing a new basin that'll cover 85 acres. This detention basin, which costs about $13 million, will hold 900 acre-feet of stormwater. That's almost 300 million gallons. This is just an example of how the district is working to keep the community safer when those heavy rains hit. Steve Parrish is the Flood District's engineering director.
This is the Duck Creek Railroad Detention Basin. It's one of the 12 projects that we currently have under construction. It's a 900 acre-foot detention basin, which is a pretty good-sized detention basin. It's not the biggest basin we've ever built, but it is a good-sized detention basin. It's collecting flows from about 5 washes that drain in from the west. The watersheds extend all the way up to the Spring Mountains and drain through Mountain's Edge and into this detention basin. It's a great location for a detention basin because we have 5 washes that are all coming together at one spot, so we can build one facility and control flows from 5 different watersheds. We had to work with the Bureau of Land Management to get this basin under construction. They were in control of the land, and so we had to apply for a right-of-way grant from BLM. When we did that, we realized that there were several other entities that had an interest in this parcel. One is a radio tower that exists on the site. There's also power poles that go through the middle of the site. And most importantly, the Las Vegas Valley Water District had a proposed facility that they wanted to build on the site. But we managed to work with all those entities and manipulate the design of the basin in such a way that we could work with all those entities and get the structure constructed.
It's designed by J.C. Wallace Engineers. It's going to take the flows from those channels that actually starts up the Spring Mountain area in the upper Duck Creek detention basin. And it's going to take that flow and it's going to come in here and it's going to be metered out at a rate that the channels downstream can handle it. It appears that the basin is going to be somewhere around 14 foot deep at the bottom down there. As we get back up here, it slants up in the bottom. We'll be about 10, 11 foot up in this area up here.
We had a developer, the Olympic Group, who owns a lot of land downstream of the detention basin, and they had an interest in getting this detention basin built quickly so that they could protect their land and allow it to be developed. And so they contributed funds to the design of this project. In fact, they paid for the design of the project. Almost $1 million were contributed to the project to try to accelerate it and get it built quickly. And so their efforts allowed us to move ahead and move it up in construction, accelerate it on the 10-year plan, and get the project constructed and provide benefit not only to them, but to everybody else downstream of the detention basin.
Over here to the south of the project is going to be the extension of Cactus Boulevard. It's going to go over the railroad tracks. It'll give Mountain's Edge another access east-west. And some of the dirt coming out of here is going to be utilized for those ramps at a future point, as well as other dirt is going to be strategically stockpiled for future use by the county down here on the other side of the railroad tracks.
You know, it's no secret, gaming and tourism is our #1 industry in the state of Nevada, but because we've been such a high growth state for such a long time, we've kind of been spoiled. So we have a lot of construction going on throughout the state of Nevada, and several years ago, construction took over mining in regards to the second largest industry. Now we're looking at you know, upwards of 20,000 people unemployed in the construction industry. It's challenging to face that right now, but it's also about the protection of our homes and our families and the people that live here in the Las Vegas Valley.
Well, we currently have 20 projects that are in some phase of construction. We have 12 projects right now that are actually under construction and underway right as we speak. We have 3 projects that have already advertised for construction and are getting ready to award to go to construction. And then we have another 5 projects that are in the bidding phase or either out to bid or about to go to bid. We also have about 5 or 6 projects that are waiting in the wings that are going to move into the advertised phase soon.
This new detention basin, along with other projects under construction, are making our homes better protected from flooding. But they're also helping the economy in their own unique way. I'll have that part of this story after the break.
Thanks, Carrie Ann, and we'll be back with more on the Flood Channel right after this.
We have all seen the devastation that floods can cause to homes and lives in Clark County. Has your neighborhood or home ever been affected by major storms? Federal flood insurance is a smart and cost-effective investment if you think your home is vulnerable. Some easy-to-understand assessments can help determine if you need flood insurance. Call your insurance agent or call 1-888-CALL-FLOOD or visit the Regional Flood Control District's website for guidance. See if flood insurance makes sense for you.
I want to show you some pictures your parents probably wouldn't want you to see. Pictures of parents making big mistakes. Here's someone's dad doing something foolish. He's actually trying to drive through a flooded street. Here's another. And another. Every summer we get flash floods, and every summer the same thing happens. And hey, if all this water can do this to a car, imagine what it'd do to a kid. Look, don't be foolish. Flash floods kill. Tell your parents.
A reminder from the Clark County Regional Flood Control District.
I'm meteorologist Christian Boris with Channel 13 Action News, and you're watching the Flood Channel.
How can new residents avoid being a victim in a flash flood?
If there's a heavy rain event or the National Weather Service has issued a flash flood watch or flash flood warning, the best thing to do is stay where you are and wait for the skies to clear. Most of the problems we have are with people driving into flooded waters, so avoid that situation. Check the National Weather Service or the Flood Control District website, www.regionalflood.org.
Welcome back to the Flood Channel. Because construction jobs are so important to the local economy, the district is proud to be putting some people to work on new flood control projects. Let's send it back to Carrie Ann for more on this story.
Betty, like I said, a record number of projects like this one are currently underway. And for every 100 construction jobs, another 75 jobs are created outside the industry. For the next few months, 26 projects at approximately $240 million should all be under construction. And no one in Southern Nevada knows more about how important this is for the local economy than his honor Mayor Oscar Goodman.
We did a survey through UNLV, 900 plus Las Vegas residents within the city itself. And we asked them what they feel Las Vegas as a city's basic function is at this point in time. What's most important to them? Would you believe that 72% of our constituents said to create jobs? So that's so important that we have public works projects like the Flood District, keeping its work going in order to create jobs in the community so folks will be able to pay their mortgages, feed their families, and remain in the community here. It's critical.
These public works jobs, they're really important because they're 2 things. One, they're construction jobs, and a lot of the jobs that have been lost in the last 2 years have been construction jobs. Jobs lost first in residential construction. Some people were hired on for some of these large strip projects that were going on over the last 2 years. But now those projects are finished as well, so we have a real problem with high unemployment in the construction sector.
Anytime that you're constructing a major project, you're doing two things. One, you are putting people to work, and number two, you are paying wages and salaries to Nevada families. Both of those things, that is money that was generated by Nevada but stays in Nevada, which is extremely important from an economic impact standpoint. For every $1 million worth of construction activity that you have go on, generally speaking, we're looking at somewhere between 8 and 10 employees being put to work for about a 1-year period. In addition to that, about 50% of all the money that's spent comes back in terms of wages and salaries to construction employees. So, you know, there's a direct and indirect impact. Of course, that broader impact, those secondary impacts, what people like to refer to as the ripple effect, is something larger than that number, about 1.5 times those numbers. But when we're just talking about the direct effects, you're talking about putting a lot of people to work for a substantial amount of time.
The other thing that I think is really important about public works jobs and how they're different maybe from other types of stimulus spending is their investment rather than consumption. Now, if we think of the federal stimulus package, you know, one of the very popular programs was Cash for Clunkers, and it said, you turn in a clunker, we're going to reduce emissions from these cars, and you'll get a tax rebate on a newer, more efficient car. Cars last for a while, but essentially you consume them in about 6 or 7 years. Now, investment is something like flood control. With investment, you're going to get a return in terms of reduced damages from bad storms over 40 to 60 years from this investment. So this is the kind of thing when we think back to the 1950s and Eisenhower had the U.S. Highway Program, that's an investment that's had a continuous return. Flood control and this kind of investment will also have a continuous return. So it's a really important part of supporting the local economy and trying to bring jobs back into the valley.
I mean, I think there's lots of reasons to look at flood control, not only sort of the life safety issues, which I think are of the utmost importance, but also you're talking about securing or protecting both the property that's out there, opening up lands for development, making existing property safer. And the fact of the matter is that a master planned approach to flood control saves everybody money. If we all had to provide that flood control at the individual property level, residential and commercial, it would cost us much more than having a master planned approach to flood control facilities that essentially we all bear the burden for. Look, I don't think you'd look at anything that's $100 million and don't say that that has a significant impact on the community. Not only the life safety effects associated with flood control facilities, but also the general economic impacts associated with the development of land and keeping people employed and all those type of things.
Flood control is ahead of the curve. It's very important that they were aware of the Build America bonds. An article was just published in one of the governing magazines citing Las Vegas as being one of the first places to use the Build America bonds, and the flood district was right up there at the top. And we get these bonds at a very good interest rate, and we build for the future. And we have to do that, because if we stop building for the future because of the exigencies of the moment here as far as the economics are concerned, we're cheating those people who will be living here in future generations. We have to go forward at this time.
We are dealing with the most difficult economic time in Southern Nevada's history. Our unemployment rate is above 10% and is rising. Our vacancy rates in office, industrial, and retail space are all double digits and rising. Our tourism industry is facing what appears to be imminent financial restructuring in a very difficult market that's out there. These are remarkable times from an economic challenge standpoint. Do we think that this is sort of the end of Southern Nevada? Absolutely not. I mean, the reality is for us that over the long term, Southern Nevada will benefit from all of the reasons that it's benefited before.
I love the future. I think the future is going to be great. Las Vegas's infrastructure is in place. We're in good shape. Got the best hotel casinos in the world. City Center just opened up. It's phenomenal. The Golden Nugget with the new Rush Tower is a new $500 million development in our downtown. People have confidence in our community. Got the best restaurants and chefs here in the world, have the best hotel boutique shops in the world, best entertainment in the world. So we're in good shape. The rest of the world has a problem. And as soon as they get out of their doldrums and they have confidence in their dollar and they have confidence in their community, then they'll come back to Las Vegas and spend money like they used to, and we'll be on top of the world again.
Betty, these planned construction projects will create more than 2,000 jobs. And as we move closer to flash flood season, each completed project will make another part of the community safer when it rains.
Thanks, Carrie Ann. Coming up after the break, we'll take a closer look at how we know how much rain is falling, even when it's in the middle of the night. Stay right there.
See that clogged storm drain? Something like that, when it rains, will cause water to back up and flood our streets. Hello, Regional Flood Control District. I'd like to report a clogged storm drain. City and county employees are working hard to keep your storm drains clean. If you spot a clogged storm drain, call and report it.
Help protect the environment by keeping our drains and washes clean. Report clogged storm drains by calling 685-0000.
I'm Agent Smith.
I'm Agent Jones.
And we're back busting people who pollute Clark County.
Oh, Sir, you're not done with us.
What have I done now? Sir, did you know by washing your car at home puts chemicals and trash into storm drains?
Really? Car washes recycle water and they don't pollute Lake Mead.
Oh. Is Clark County your home?
And you don't like trash in your home?
No.
Then don't trash Clark County. It's our home too.
Okay.
I'm Faith Borden with the National Weather Service, and you're watching the Flood Channel.
Welcome back to the Flood Channel. Mark Twain has been quoted as saying that if you don't like the weather in New England, just wait 5 minutes and it will change. Well, here in Southern Nevada, our weather doesn't change that often, but when it does, especially in the summer, watch out. Carrie Ann brings us more on this story.
When dangerous storms hit the valley, hours, minutes, and seconds can make a big difference in the safety of you and your family. It takes a team effort with the National Weather Service, the local media, emergency workers, and the flood district to make sure you're informed if a flood emergency occurs. But how do we know how much rain is falling and if that could cause a flood? Tim Setko is in charge of our flood threat recognition system. He'll explain our eyes in the field when it rains.
When the district was created, we were charged with developing a master plan to identify the flood control needs for Clark County. Included in the recommendations were not only infrastructure to keep water away from people, but it also included a recommendation to develop a data collection system and a flood warning system. The rationale being that it would take years and years to implement the capital improvement nature of the flood control program, and in the meantime needed to collect data to provide people with warning on where it was raining and how much it was raining so they could avoid flooded and problem areas. In the beginning, there were no gauges, so anywhere we put a gauge, it would have hydrologic significance. But we looked at the area and came up with a grand plan, recognizing that rain gauges would give us information on site-specific information on where it was raining, and we also implemented weather stations, which would tell us not only if it was raining at a particular area, but if there was a storm in a general area.
Just having the real-time network set up where you have all the sensors gridded out is an incredible tool that many areas do not have. And of course, it's very important for us to utilize that tool to discover where we have some of the heaviest rain falling, because there could be a neighborhood that's set for flooding based on the rainfall that's been received, and then another side of the city could be completely dry.
The National Weather Service does a real good job of looking at the big picture, forecasting flooding on big systems like the Colorado, the Mississippi, the Columbia, but the nature of their work, the tools that they have, don't lend themselves to small areas, small drainages of a few tens of square miles or even a few hundred square miles. For that, they look for cooperation with local agencies. In Clark County, we are that agency. We're providing a lot of instrumentation throughout the watersheds so they can issue more site-specific and timely flash floods and warnings.
We use all of our technology and equipment to forecast, but we need to know what's happening in real time, and we turn to the Flood Control District page and all of their gauges to see really what's going on. And we're watching those gauges to see when they're rising. If they're rising, we know that we have potential for flooding.
The one thing that's great about the system is it's uniform. Everything across the board, you know these are reliable gauges that we have, whereas if I'm taking a look at somebody's backyard weather system, I don't know if their gauge is reliable or if it's filled up with rain from last week, but with your system, we could see the trends as we go throughout the day. If it's a day with a big set of thunderstorms, we could see the trends and how water's piling up in certain parts of the city.
If you think about putting up a large map and you take a dart and you throw that dart, well, what's your chance of hitting that rain gauge? It depends upon your network. And if your network is spread out by 5 miles, well, you might not hit that gauge at all. And as you fill in the holes, like you're doing with adding your new gauges, then you're increasing your chance of hitting your mark when you throw that dart. So it might be raining here, and at night, and you might be here, and if you don't have a gauge here where it's raining, you don't know what's going on. So by adding those gauges, it helps.
Before there was a flood threat recognition system, the emergency responders were dependent upon knowing where it's raining. And that's very difficult to do in the middle of the night or if you're in a remote location. Because of our system and the number of gauges we have scattered over this wide area, the emergency responders, the Metro, Fire, Public Works departments, all have access to our system, and they can see in real time, in the middle of the night, on the weekend, on holidays, whenever, where it's raining, how hard it's raining, what the intensity is, and based on communications, that information and communications with us and our staff, where flooding might be expected. It's proven to be a very good system.
It doesn't take much to cause flash flooding, as most people know that have been here a while, or if you haven't been here a while, you need to learn that it only takes about a quarter or a half inch of rain to cause flooding if it falls in a significant area. One of our most famous floods several years ago happened out over the mountains, over the Spring Mountains, and nobody lives there, but it caused significant flooding in the Summerlin area. And it doesn't mean that it has to be raining where you're at to get flash flooding. It just might mean that it's raining far away or a little further away, and that water comes rushing down. Because our soil is so hard, it doesn't absorb the water, so that water has to go somewhere, and it's going to run down towards Lake Mead.
And that's where the challenges lie, especially living in the valley where geography plays such a big role, having that bowl. Where are you going to collect all this water, and where's it going? So being in a desert climate certainly has unique challenges.
The sites are located in very remote areas in a very harsh environment, as we all know. The desert is dry,